Todd, you're applying for a job to be the next mayor of Austin. Why should people support you?
Well, I grew up here, and the reason that I decided to get into the race is because I listened to my friends and family that were being affected by some choices and some poor planning by city government. And as I see my friends not being able to afford to live here any longer, that was one of the main reasons that I stepped in, because people are fleeing to past Cedar Park and Buda just to deal with the affordability crisis. That, in addition to the traffic issue, and when a friend of mine was working for a transportation network company that was blocked from doing business here, so that was another reason that I decided to throw my hat in the ring.
I think we all are familiar with the problems of Austin. What are some of your solutions for them?
Okay, so affordability, a 20% residential homestead property tax exemption immediately. I do not want to wait 4 years like Steve Adler is proposing. Another one is to immediately not support this rail bond. It doesn't do enough for the cost. It's going to be on average, this is a low estimate that Leffenwell said, $180 per family. That would nullify the average property tax exemption maybe within a $10 range, so there's no gain. I'm the only significant candidate that has been against the rail bond from the start of this campaign. As a matter of record, Steve Adler is for the rail bond, Mike Martinez is for the rail bond, Cheryl Cole is for the rail bond. I'm against the rail bond. That is a stark difference because I want to save money for Austinites in this affordability crisis. It's not the time to be pushing this type of transportation solution. I am for transportation solutions. I am for taking the money that they're going to try to use to get this street level train from the old Highland Mall to ACC. I would like to take that money and take lights off 360, do flyovers, do express lanes, high and wide on I-35. Take some examples from how they've dealt with it in San Antonio, apply it to Austin quickly. We can do it quickly.
We're here on a street with lots of buses.
Yes.
Would more bus routes be helpful?
Absolutely. We should have expanded bus service in some underserved areas. I mean, that's one of the things that I've heard about this proposed rail line is that they're not going to have the bus service to get the folks to the rail line because they're using so much money on a rail line that's going to nowhere. So one of the quicker solutions would be to use a smarter system with maybe smaller, we don't need double-length buses with nobody on them, perhaps like a shuttle style system that's people can reserve with the SMS text, that kind of thing.
What would you cut in the city budget?
I would immediately cut the new code enforcement pickups that are going around Northwest Hills trying to have people tear down their tree houses. I had a tree house in Northwest Hills when I was a kid, and we never had anybody come up from code enforcement and put a letter on the door that we needed to turn it down. In that regard, I really think that city permitting is a major problem for small business owners, restaurateurs, anybody that's trying to start a business. They have no way of planning for their margins right now. In any normal city, I mean, I love Austin. I like that it's weird, but the one thing that I do not appreciate is that you cannot sit down with all the decision makers in the permitting process and get a timeline where they're accountable and they'll get back to you on a timely basis. Small business here is suffering because of that. I would immediately cut some of the fat within the bureaucracy at City Hall.
How would you work with other members of the City Council? What's your management style?
Okay, so essentially in the 10-1 system, we'll have 11 leaders that are all, one at large, but we're going to have leaders that are all looking out for their own district. Sort of like when I started managing a band and you had 3 lead players. You had 2 lead guitar players and you had a lead harmonica player and other players. And if you go in there and just don't guide them or listen to their strengths and try to have them fit in with what the other person's doing, then you just get noise. And I want to rise above the noise of local government and bring folks together by listening, number one, to each person, identifying their strengths and finding compromises so it's not a balkanized start.
Tell us a little bit about your personal background. What do you do for a living, where you grew up?
Okay, I grew up here. It's one of the reasons I chose this particular location. I went to this school after going to Hill Elementary, and there were some differences there that I can touch on in a little while. And I've been a professional musician for 12 years. I managed a farm. I started an alternative energy company in the Panhandle of Texas. I've been a licensed loan officer, and I've worked in commercial lending, done ground-up hotel constructions, that kind of thing.
And you have no previous political background?
No. Well, okay, that's not exactly true because I did run for class president, I believe it was junior year here, and I did win that one.
congratulations.
Yes. 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 I think that we had about 40 people in our class, so the signage was a little less costly.
What's your approach to growth in Austin? People love having new jobs, but it comes with a cost of having more people here.
Well, my approach would be unlike the approach of the 80s where they sent letters away telling businesses not to come here. I would immediately block and tackle the bottlenecks with traffic, and I would encourage there to be, without sprawl, with adequate underground parking and parking structures, other areas where folks can have business hubs throughout the city that don't have to, where you're not trying to cram everybody in and out of downtown every day. Of course, the obvious solutions like staggered work hours and transportation network companies like Uber and Lyft, which other candidates for mayor have been blocking for quite some time. That would be helpful in the traffic solution arena. But as far as managing growth, I think that we need several small business districts around the city where we're not trying to cram so many people on the same thoroughfares, and they have not sprawl style parking, but up and down parking.
What's your solution? A lot of people complain about getting from east to west in Austin is very difficult. How would you fix that?
East and west is very difficult. We can look at widening some of the thoroughfares and expanding some of those thoroughfares. And if we do eventually add a transportation nexus, that's what I've been talking about since the start, is that east and west nexus, possibly above ground, more privately funded, more 21st century in nature that's being proposed by Prop 1. And modular, I would think. I think that we could have a mass transit system that would east and west that's along those lines, that could go up quickly, being that it would be modular.
Overall, how would you like to change Capital Metro's structure?
Yeah. I would like there to be some competition with Capital Metro. We'll just leave it at that.
Like bus companies coming in, or
Other companies, yes.
free enterprises?
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's been too long and too boondoggled, and I think that we need to start stepping away from Capital Metro.
So many people say my property taxes are ridiculously high. What's your plan to cut them?
Okay, like I said, immediately a residential homestead property tax exemption. Immediately, not waiting to phase it in, rolling with the punches on that. And then I want to work with my friends at the state level to start expanding these types of exemptions to rental properties to protect renters, the musicians and the artists in this town, and people that are students. Because right now those taxes are getting passed along to them because of the high rates, and if we can start giving some exemptions there, that will help. And then if we're going to have any type of incentive programs, TIFs and the like, we need to start doing some due diligence to identify the folks that have lived here within the zone and actually try to exempt them from some of those anticipated property tax rises that will be paying us back in the future, depending on how long they've been here. I think that it's time for that, and if we're gonna let those go through. I mean, that sounds like a lot of work, but I'm ready to do it.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
Okay. Well, one thing that I want to do is, this goes back a little ways from when I was in elementary school. I started at Hill Elementary in kindergarten. And when I was in first grade, I had a teacher that said, "They've told me I couldn't do this anymore, but I'm going to do it anyway." And she led the class in a prayer. And I remember that. She was a wonderful teacher. And now, coming off of the town of Greece versus Galloway decision, where prayer has been green-lighted in government meetings, I would like to foster and support voluntary faculty-led prayer in Austin in the mornings, and I would like it to go nationwide, starting here. And that's why I chose Hyde Park Baptist, because whenever my mother started teaching her in third grade, I came over here and the teachers were freely able to do so. Now I think in public schools it would be a very nice thing, and the Kennedy said that when you have this type of prayer in the public arena, that you cannot expect, this is a paraphrase, you cannot expect a person not to end the prayer in the name of his or her God or gods. I think that that's very appropriate in schools, and I would like to see, if we do get this going, I would like to see the faculty members rotate from class to class when they lead these prayers, or if they don't want to lead a prayer, they can do a moment of silence. If they want to recite a poem, From Frost, they can do that. But I want to foster this because then the dialogue is open among parents. They can decide and let their child know, you can keep your head down or you can stand up and sit there and work on your studies. But I think it needs to be back in the public arena, starting with Austin, and that's one of my missions.
Todd Phelps, thanks for being with us.
Thanks.